respect, we thought about what could be the best way to actually exchange this know-how. So we have some networking session. That's one thing. We have a communication platform as well, and we were looking for, well, let's say the best format. And one idea came to say, how about we meet on a regular basis every month, every 2 months, to have a zoom in on the expertise of one of the person. Initially, we had in mind to call it Share Your Magic, where basically you can come and share your magic to the rest of the collective. And eventually it ended up with Mastery Talks for now. But yeah, so this is a space for you all at two levels, right? On one hand, it's expertise from an expert of the collective to other experts of the collective. So today we have the pleasure to have Alex Ballerin. I will introduce him. But the idea is that in coming sessions, it could be you as well, coming and sharing your expertise about something. So in that case, don't hesitate to reach out to Stephanie and propose a topic that you believe you're comfortable with and that could serve other experts in the collective. So that's a bit about the context. About Alex, well, I know Alex now for 6 months, something like that. He's based in Barcelona as well. Alex has a peculiar background because he's been a professional Scrum trainer for many years, I think more than 10 years, meaning he has trained hundreds, if not thousands, of people with Scrum methods. So he's definitely an expert about it, one of the definitely a leading expert in Spain, but also globally, and he's very recognized. I was implementing, I didn't told you, Alex, OKRs with a Dutch company, and I asked them about you because they were Scrum Agile coach and they knew you and they said you were very recognized in the field. So it goes definitely beyond Spain. So very happy to have you in the collective, and also very grateful to have you with us now for 50 minutes to share your know-how. And just for the context, everyone, when Alex reached out to me, he was already with this idea to how can we actually create more synergies between Scrum and OKRs. And so this has been the topic of passion, I would say, the new passion from Alex's standpoint. He joined the OKR Professional Coach program from OKRmentors, and now he's part of the collective. I guess that's probably many more things to say, but going into the practice, we'll get to know more. Alex, the ball is yours. If you want to share anything more about the context of this session, don't hesitate. And for the rest, I guess we will have opportunity to ask questions towards the end.
Okay, great. Let me, yeah. Okay, good. So, okay, good. So, thank you a lot for the introduction, and I'm thrilled to be in front of you, in front of the other members of the collective, sharing my knowledge. So I'm going to start forward. We are going to see some topics regarding how Scrum can be used to operationalize OKRs, and we're going to see in a minute. So yeah, a little about me. Basically, I would like to reinforce that background, what Ellie just presented some minutes ago. The thing is that I have been teaching Scrum and coaching teams for from 2010 approximately. And well, I've been dedicating a lot of energies to try to rise the level of Scrum. And I've hit many times the ceiling in many organizations where Scrum is introduced at the team level, trying to make the IT teams more efficient. But there is not a link, a connection between the strategy and the business people. And I've hit my head against the ceiling time and time and time again. So I wanted to say, okay, why aren't we changing a little bit our approach, just bridging to other domains, such as user experience, product management. And I also found OKRs as a way of getting in closer touch with the business folks. And that's why I wanted to learn more about OKRs, and I get in touch with Ellie last year. And definitely what I want is to share my expertise and to learn more about OKRs. And my deep passion, as Ellie put it before, is how to make Scrum more effective and by reaching more and appealing more to the business people and aligning with the strategy and so on, that we are going to see in a minute. For whatever means you want to contact me, you have here my social networks, typically more active on LinkedIn, especially in English. So I will be happy to be in touch with you. So let's move on. First, there is a topic I'm pretty sure you have seen. And by the way, I'm not by far as expert on OKRs as all of you, but on the Agile community, I'm bringing some topics that are more common outside the Agile community. And one of the things that thrills me is to discuss this project logic model, where we see the steps in the value creation from resources to activities to products, then to outcomes for people, for customers and users, and also finally impact eventually for the organization. And what I try to discuss with, I teach this to even to Scrum Masters, which are not really close to the product, is that from my experience, one of the issues that impedes the agility in the organizations is the way that the work is shaped. And the initiatives coming from springing from the strategy are many times shaped in the form of a project with the iron triangle. We all know the scope, the time, and the budget. And what this shapes is the incentives and the way that the teams are managing the work and also reporting on the work. So we see that teams, even if they are doing Scrum, they are taking care of their sprints, of their budget, if they are delivering the product on time, and if they have delivered the expected features. And okay, so we have the product in place, but there is a gap here, which is what are the outcomes for the users? I ask in most of my courses, I think I've taught something like 6,000 people so far in 14 years. Okay, and I typically ask them if they measure the usage of their features, and surprisingly, most of them do not. And I challenge them: how do you know that the value is created? Okay, we are delivering what the business is asking us for. And we are getting into the discussion of the feature factory. So the business is treating you as a feature factory, trying to deliver more and more, but we are not measuring altogether. When I say we, I'm talking about the business level. We are not measuring the outcome. And we do not have a clue if that is contributing or not to the business impact and the business results. And this starts to shape a very interesting discussion, which we can take to the product owners or the business people. And I think it's going to be useful because we have several categories where we can put the goals and we can put the metrics. And when I ask them, the people in my courses, what is the missing column, I see that most of the times is the outcomes. And this is not surprising, because I'm pretty sure that is happening to you. For example, people setting KRs are as delivering output, and this shouldn't be the best approach to using OKRs. So okay, so let's move on. Okay, you can ask whatever at the end. So let's talk a little bit about Scrum. But what I discovered some 3 or 4 years ago, that it is more useful not to start talking about the general picture. I'm sure you have seen about Scrum, about the events on the sprint and the cycle and so on. I would like to start talking about the context, because probably, I don't know if you are aware, but in the Scrum guide, the official definition for Scrum, we only have the definition for a sprint. And we do the planning, we do the daily, we finish the sprint with a review. Okay, but we are somehow lost because we don't have context. And what I teach to people attending to the product owner classes or even a Scrum Master, whatever, is, okay, we need a context. And this context is set by a vision, is set by a strategy where we choose how the product is going to be linked to the business strategy, and what are the priorities, and what are the things we do not know and we are trying to guess. So we need that context, and we need to make aware all the Scrum team, not only the product owner, about those concepts, guesses, And then after we have discussed strategy, we somehow defined a roadmap. And a roadmap is not a set of features delivered through several quarters or years. A roadmap should be the way in which the strategy is being deployed, and the goals or the milestones of the roadmap should be linked to the strategy. How are we making sure that the strategy is real, and how are we delivering the value? And the strategy shouldn't be a waterfall, should be informed by what we know, what we learn, the information that emerges about the product, about the user, when we develop and we hand off the product to the customer. So we have the product roadmap, and we have here some big goals, business goals, which are the product goals, which were introduced in the latest version of Scrum Guide. So in Scrum, our goal is to define work in the product backlog in order to reach a short or medium-term goal, which is the product goal. Okay, and if it is the case that the product goal is too big to be delivered in a single sprint, we can typically split that big product goal into smaller sprint goals and to go working on them. And eventually, if everything goes as expected, we can go to the next sprint goal. But if the sprint goal reveals something regarding the strategy, regarding the execution, regarding a risk, whatever, which we didn't expect, eventually we may need to pivot and not to follow this path. And how do we know? We will see later about the sprint review, sorry. But as we see here, we have indicators which are going to help us to know how are we doing. And this is not just delivering the features on time. This is taking decisions based on the outcome or any other effect out of the product, not just features. And okay, let's deep a little bit about this figure. I'm pretty sure you have seen. So what we have is, as I said before, all the stuff, all the work packages we have here on the product backlog are intended to go and reach the product goal. And we will see that typically the product goal has some business expectations. And the thing is that this is a big change because before the product backlog was not constrained. So we could throw whatever pieces of work we wanted. And the only thing we had in order to create a little bit of rationality about the backlog is that some things were going to be done in the closer term and they were ready. And some other things we're going to be delivered later, and some other things even we may never end up doing those. So now we have something which is very clever, which is, okay, let's get rid of this and let's focus on the things we are pretty sure we are going to deliver in order to reach short or medium term product goal. When we reach that product goal, we seek for another one. Okay, so that makes, let's create product goals which are actionable, not a lot of sprints in order to reach them. And then we will have a bigger superstructure like the, we said before, the roadmap, but that is going to hand us more product goals. Okay, and as I said before, if we cannot deliver the product goal in a single step, we have several sprint goals. Okay, so the work here, the items, the work packages are only those which we think we are going to need in order to reach the sprint goal. But we're going to do the work, and daily we're going to inspect if the work is correct or not, if we are if something is unfolding within the sprint and more things could be needed, or some other things we should be removed. The thing is that the sprint shouldn't be seen just as a box where we put whatever hours of work and we deliver it. It's something that is truly guided by the sprint goal. And the sprint goal is, we're going to see some examples later, but the team should have some freedom in order to face uncertainty during the execution of the work and to be able to inspect to reach the sprint goal. So the owners of the backlog is the developers, and more or less what we do is, yes, okay, let's focus on this sprint goal. We have, during the sprint planning, these estimation of the work we are going to need to do, but let's, doing the sprint, when we are doing the real work, let's be ready to really discover new work or to deprioritize something. Okay, so we are going to see later how this relates to OKRs. At the end, what we're going to do is to do a sprint review, and what we may review here are the KRs. And at the end, we are going to do a sprint retrospective where we are going to review the way we work, what are the impediments within the team, what are the impediments from the team to outside, and we are going to try to fix things for the next cycles. And then once we have finished this, and we eventually have corrected the course in the sprint review, we're going to carry on, for the next sprint. But I think the explanation works better if we consider that we are not improvising sprint after sprint. Sometimes we have a roadmap, perhaps clearer on the shorter term, but later we need to inspect and adapt when we reach this product goal and decide how to proceed, to persevere or to quit or to pivot. Okay, so the sprint is important, but it is not that important, that understanding that is a way where teams have the freedom to tackle complex problems. And the team should have the freedom, shouldn't be mandated. Okay. So, yeah.
Alex, we have a question here in the chat.
Okay,
should I read it?
Yeah, please.
It's like from Frederick Moreau. To better understand the context of this approach, what are the limits of it? When it is not relevant?
Okay, if we have to choose between, let's check if I understand the question. Scrum is relevant, especially when we have the context where we can have a stable team which is going to work within the organization to reach a goal. Scrum perhaps is not the best approach, and classical project management may be, in the case that we are going to do something which is very different from other types of work we are doing in our organization. We are going to do something which is very different. So basically, if I can get your point, what we are the prerequisite for Scrum is having stable teams which are ready to work on a certain sequence of goals. Is that helping?
Yeah, if I can continue just on the question, is like my question is more like about the content of the work that needs to be done. Sometimes you're going to use Scrum to implement an enabler, like something that let's say a data lake. You need to build a data lake in order to do something, and you can do this along your Scrum cycles. Does this apply? You know, can you apply OKR when you face this kind of a nature of work that are more like infrastructure based, or is it really more like product development, like features development?
Okay. So we may say that it is. I think we're going to talk a little bit later about that. We have some organizational design options when we're going to decide how our Scrum team are going to be shaped. And sometimes some teams are going to be doing infrastructure stuff or platform stuff. And it is not that easy, or we have to carefully understand how this is going to contribute to the business objectives or KRs. I mean, ideally, all the teams should be customer-facing and delivering value to the customers. If I get you well, you're mentioning that in some organizations, some teams are delivering or either back office or infrastructure stuff, or sometimes they need some preparation sprints in order to deliver value. Which of the two approaches situations are you talking about?
I guess the two are good ones.
Yeah, like both could be relevant because at some stage, depending on the cycle, life cycle of your product, you may start with using more like a sort of a Kanban approach, and then switching to Scrum when you start building features. But what happened is that in the reality, I fully get your point, and I agree theoretically, but in the practice, there are very few teams that are willing to change the approach along the way. So they will start with Scrum from the beginning, or they will start with Kanban and they will continue.
Okay.
So I understand that sometimes we're using Scrum in a not in a proper context, let's say. So that was a bit my point. So
okay, let me just try to add something on top of this. The thing is that you can use Kanban practices within Scrum. There is no problem about that. Even you can release in the middle of the sprint if you want. Okay. The thing is that the true difference between the Scrum and Kanban approaches is that if you have an overarching goals, if you have goals and you have more uncertainty, then eventually it's better to use Scrum because you have more freedom to focus on the business milestones and then be able to really come up with the best solution. But however, if you are, if it's the uncertainty is smaller and you are more interested on focusing on concrete pieces of work, so there is not those overarching goals, and you're more interested on efficiency, eventually it may be more interesting to have a pure Kanban approach. But obviously, it's super interesting, and I may we may use a parking lot or whatever to discuss it later. I will be happy to go to the detail. Unfortunately, this is a bit too detailed for the moment. But thank you a lot. So let's carry on to try to keep this our timing. Next step is okay. I'm sure many of you may have seen this slide. The thing is that we tried here to map how the cycle of the OKRs are mapped into elements of Scrum. So when we set objectives, especially quarterly, this is something which resonates a little bit with the product goal. The product goal is a milestone with some impact on the business, and we try to keep it short or small, not bigger than a quarter. Okay, so and we try to make it measurable. So we having key results to measure the product goal is a good approach. When we are working in day-to-day during the sprints, setting the sprint goal is a way to shape the work we are going to do. Planning how are we going to do the work and executing the work is something which is quite aligned with these activities or work management. Then we can even discuss during the daily scrums the measures, especially if we are on a type of work where releasing things could be used to gauge if that created positive or negative impacts on the KRs. And the key point that we are going to discuss is that we are going to have our sprint reviews, and at those sprint reviews, we are going to measure outcomes, or we're going to measure key results. And this is going to inform if we are going to carry on to the product goal, we are going to discover something which is new, or we are going to pivot or whatever. So it is quite aligned with OKRs. So let's carry on and have more time for discussion later. So in this, now we are going to see how to create a strategic alignment with OKRs, Scrum, and another tool which we are going to see, which is called flight levels. Okay, so we are going to see now how we have defined both OKRs, Scrum, and we're going to get a little bit deeper on how to align those. So one thing is, how are we doing the operational design with OKRs? I mean, first thing is, how are we going to define how the work is aligned with the strategy, and what are the work packages, and what are the hierarchies, and if we have a kind of normalized way of shaping work. So we can have our strategy, as we said before. We can define the canvas of how the product should be, the strategy, using lean canvas or business model canvas or value proposition canvas or whatever. So we are exploring how the product is adding value to the user. And we are even identifying what are the goals and what are the metrics in order to measure the value. And then once we have shaped the strategy, we're going to decide on the how. What work are we going to do in order to meet the strategy? So what we try in Scrum and Fly levels is to have shorter initiatives, no big projects, because they are more prone to failure. Smaller things that have a kind of payback in 90 days or something. And then we're going to divide those initiatives on smaller chunks of work, which are epics. By the way, they are not initiative epics or stories official on Scrum, but they are often used. And then we are going to split even in smaller stories, which are small pieces of work that we are expecting on a single sprint to deliver a handful of them. And what we can see is how do they contribute to OKRs. So first things is let's split the work in ways which are somehow finer and fitting somehow the sprint cadence and the sprint capacity. And now let's move on in something which is called Fly levels, which is separate from Scrum, but I think it helps to operationalize the work. So in Fly levels is, as you see, a kind of a scaled Kanban where you have 3 levels. The third one is the strategy, where we shape the strategy, we define the initiatives, and we track the big initiatives. Okay, so it's a nice place to define OKRs. We will see in a minute. What we have downstream is what we call the level 2 end-to-end coordination, where we have an initiative, which is here, and we map it here. And here, what we do is to track the work, which could be epics, for example, big chunks of work, several weeks to deliver each of them. What is the focus of this level? Is coordination. Is trying to make sure that the work is not going to be stuck in any of the teams that are collaborating across this life cycle. By the way, there is another topic I would like to share, which is working limit. Okay, so one of the things that typically creates flooding for the execution teams is that we have a lot of staff working together. And this is a failure. This is something we should avoid. If we have the right number of work initiatives working, then the teams are not going to get flooded. So we are not going to have this external variability, which is really killing the focus of the teams. Second, what we are trying also is to have a WIP limit, work in progress limit, here. So we don't want the teams to be flooded. So we are controlling here dependencies on both WIP limits for teams. And then what we are doing is, okay, we have this work package that is going to be done. We are going to show an example later. So the key is that we have people from the teams visiting daily their work. Okay, this is okay, daily work, but they are visiting at least twice a week the Fly level 2. So a representative from each team is going upstairs and is visiting the level 2, and they are unblocking their work. We do not need here PMO. So they are doing the work of the PMO. And then once a week or each 2 weeks, they are going, a representative or a leader of the initiative is going to talk with the management. And they are going to pitch in 2 minutes how this initiative is working, what are the key blockings, how are the OKRs evolving, and then they are going to go back. So the key is that we have an organic diffusion of the information, and we try to avoid the flooding of work and to provide transparency and visibility to everyone in the organization. So it's something that somehow resonates a little bit with the philosophy of OKRs. Then let's show a couple of examples. Let's show this one because it's eventually a little bit more practical. Okay? The thing is that we have our we may have our big strategic goal, which may take more than a year. And what we are going to do is to create, as you know very well, shorter yearly objectives and key results for the whole company. And then we are going to divide those objectives into the teams or products or whatever. And we are typically going to shape shorter time frame goals, and we're going to measure them. And the thing is that what we can do at this level, remember that this level is intended for management or leadership, is to define big initiatives or epics, and eventually management is not going to be that interested on how those things are evolving, but they are typically going to be interested if something is not progressing as expected or if we have any problems. So what we will try is, yes, we have our company objectives and key results at this level. And as we mentioned before, what we try is to cascade those initiatives into the flight level 2, which is the coordination level, where we are tracking a big piece of work, which is an initiative or an epic, splitting on smaller chunks. And those chunks are going to be assigned to the flight level 1 teams, to the teams. And this is pull. So as soon as this work package is finished, we are ready to accept another one and to start working on this. And the key again is that we are limiting the work in progress limits. We don't want teams to be flooded by work. And the thing is that people from those teams are going upstairs to discuss frequently, more than once a week, typically, and they are going to go upstairs again to discuss the initiatives of big pieces of work once or twice a week. Sorry, twice a month or once a week to discuss it. So what we try with this is to keep this transparency and avoid these coordination organizations, such as a PMO, where they are going eventually to be needed to coordinate traditional projects. But when we are doing more agile and innovation work, their work is going to be really shared by their own people leading the work. So I'm going to keep moving. So as we add some things here, we see that we have here the sprints for the Scrum team. They have assigned the work packages. We can use flight levels or not in order to deliver those work packages. And we are going to work during the sprints, trying to focus on some key results. And we're going to review them at the end of the sprint. So more things. How do we align the cadences of both approaches? Okay, so what I'm expert is on Scrum, and I know that things range from 1 week to 4 weeks. So we have many possibilities, but we need to deliver value as latest at the end of the sprint, but we can deliver things during the sprint if needed. So what we're going to see is that at the end of the sprint, we're going to do the review. So we are going to judge the success of the sprint and learn and decide what to do next. And this looks like the check-ins. So if we are doing, for example, typically bi-weekly sprints, we can check what are the results each 2 weeks. So we can join together the check-in and the sprint review. Even if we are doing longer cycles, we are going to have informed check-ins. Okay, so I guess that according to the context, it may be more convenient to do more frequent or not so frequent check-ins. That may be due to the context. But here what we see is that there is a nice alignment between the check-ins and the reviews. I'm passing a little bit fast intentionally in order to concentrate the whole questions at the end, okay? So now what we see is, I hope this is not too confusing for you, but what we see here is the green ones are OKR events, the red ones are Scrum events. And what we do is to start with our cycle where we identify initiatives with the OKRs. Then what we do is, okay, let's identify how are we going to define an initiative across several sprints. And remember that this is not an official Scrum event, but nothing impedes us to do so. So, okay, we deliver, okay, so, and we may say, okay, let's do like they do in SAFe. Let's plan, for example, 6 sprints in advance. And we know that we're going to have eventually very clear what we're going to deliver on the first sprints. Eventually, being realistic, we are not so sure what if we are going to deliver the whole 3rd and 4th sprints. And if we want to be cautious, we may say, okay, those sprints are at risk, but this is the way that you want to shape risk, okay, or delivery. And yeah, and okay, so we start planning our sprint. We decide which is going to be the goal, and the goal may be more output oriented. For example, I'm thinking on Frederick comment on, okay, we're going to deliver a data lake, or we are going to set up our infrastructure. Okay, perhaps this is not going to have a direct impact on OKRs, but the goal may be truly outcome oriented as well. And we may achieve things during 2 weeks that may impact on OKRs. So it depends a little bit. So we are going to do the dailies. Sometimes things may be so dynamic that we are going to check on OKRs if they have changed from day to day. Some other days it doesn't matter. It doesn't need to be that way. And again, we are going to do the sprint review. In this case, we don't have an associated check-in, but we may have check-ins in all sprint reviews. They are supposed to be green in my notation. Okay, so, and we are going to do sprint after sprint, and eventually we're going to have our, if the cycle is several sprints, we're going to have our check-ins, but we're going to finish our retrospective when the whole OKR cycle is finished. So, and the last thing I want to show with you is, I don't know to which extent are you experienced with Scrum, but I've spent many times, hundreds of times at least, repeating that the sprint review is not a demo. It's not just a way to showcase the features we have delivered, because actually, if we want to really respect the spirit of Scrum, we have what it's called a definition of done, which helps us to decide before finishing the sprint which part of the backlog of the sprint and which part of the goal is really done and really even in production or ready to be showcased, and which part it is not. So the rule in Scrum is to show only the things that are done in the sprint review. So why do I say this? Because the sprint review is not intended to gather feedback, which is going to decide if things are okay or not. Everything which are showing to the sprint review is validated somehow by a test, by an acceptance criteria, or whatever. So which is the goal of showcasing the work here? The goal is to make aware people outside the team of things we did in order to gather some feedback, but not to validate or discard the feature, but in order to learn all together, the people doing the work, which may have learned things about the customer or the technology or whatever, the product owner, which is looking forward into the next sprints, and the stakeholders, which may be aware of things on the market or whatever, to discuss all together how to optimize the remaining sprints and how to optimize the remaining path or roadmap to the product goal or the product vision. So we are thinking what new things and how to optimize the product for the remaining sprints, but not to decide of what it was delivered, it was right or not. This is something which I need to repeat time after time, and it's okay. And what I wanted to discuss here is that as we see, okay, let's, at the beginning of the meeting, let's refresh the vision as the strategy. You never over communicate the vision of this and the strategy. Let's refresh which is the product goal we are trying to reach in several sprints. Let's refresh which was the sprint goal for the current sprint. And then we can discuss the evolution of the OKRs and if we are on track or not, or what is our insights, if we are likely to get the OKRs later or not, and what's our decision. So I rushed a little bit because it is my first time presenting this kind of stuff, but now is okay, the time for Q&A. So if you have any questions, I may be happy to go back to whatever part of the presentation and to discuss with you without hurrying. I don't know if it was time or not, Ellie and Stephanie.
Yes. Thank you very much, Alex. It was really insightful, very interesting. We actually have 2 questions in the chat. One is from Frederick. Well, I can read it. About the tooling, I'm curious to know if you have implemented such approach using Jira or Confluence. If so, how was it organized? Like, do you track OKR progresses in Confluence in Jira? That's one question.
Okay, so good. I have implemented several parts of these together. Okay, I have here. I have implemented the flight levels and this kind of approach in Jira. Okay, it worked well. And it was, I've seen KPIs and I've seen some sort of OKRs, but unfortunately, to be honest, they were outside the reach of the Scrum teams I was assigned to coach. So I've seen this, and I know that they are somehow related, but there was not the closer link I was expecting to find. So I don't have any kind of recommendation. I mean, according to the tools.
I mean, I guess this is where we can make it a conversation based on everyone's experiences as well. And Alex, you don't need to have the perfect or golden answer to everything, and everyone can support each other here. I mean, my understanding, Alex, is that Scrum can work with different tools, right? In the sense that there is a Jira and Confluence, and most often tech teams would use that. I've also seen a teams move from Jira to Monday.com recently for 2,000 tech and product people, not 200, 2,000 on Monday.com. So I'm still like curious to see how it will work. And then you can see some plugins like Oboard that work with Jira and Confluence, but I've never had the experience to test it. Luis, do you want to make a quick word on that?
Yes, I'd like to add something, because here at the company that I'm working on, we split it like Jira and Quantif platform, also to help them to split from outcomes and outputs. For example, Jira, I ask everyone to upload their initiatives, their tasks and activities on Jira, and that would be like the outputs. And then we have Quantif platform for the OKRs, but just the outcomes OKR. So I try to use both platforms to learn or coach them into these outputs to outcomes. This is something that I started this year, and is helping us to move these, mindset from outputs to outcome.
Interesting.
And Luis, just to follow up, like, do you have any issues linking both activities and KRs, or is it smooth?
Actually, the issues that I'm having now is that people still think about outputs. So my work is more into this Quantif platform, because they upload the same, I can say, epics and product sprint goals, which are basically initiatives, into the Quantif platform. So what I try to do here is to coach them that this is not an outcome, this is an output. So delete these and create an outcome. So then I'm just trying to go. This is the issue that I'm facing right now, but this is being part of the process.
Yeah, maybe other experts have experiences in how they could map outcome and output.
Well, let me just mention that there is a practice I've seen working inside Scrum.org, where I act as a stakeholder for the development of the new version of the courses, where we have what it's called a product dashboard, which is actually based on Mural, like I'm using here. And what they do here is the product owner there is showing the roadmap, showing the issues, showing the change requests, showing high-level OKRs. But this is purely manual.
Yeah, in general, the best practice is in the tool or in the visibility where you have your outputs, whether it is epics, user stories, and so on, to link it to the outcome. Even if you have another visual where you will manage your outcomes, and that's not in the same tool, that you are able to map it. So when you do the reporting, you're able to see like, okay, 80% of my resources are going towards that outcome, or we are actually working on these 2 outcomes this quarter. So you have it very visible. This is important, else that doesn't work. I see there are other questions here from Luis, right?
Yes, about the approach. Which approach do you use to transform product goals into outcome KRs?
Okay, my product goals is not an old element in Scrum. It has been only around since 2020. My approach is to try to spring those. Let me check if I can get them. To identify those elements from the strategy. So how are we going to measure then this concrete canvas is not especially for that, but how are we going to measure that we are creating impact on the users? Okay, are they going to be measured by NPS, or this is going to be measured by the number of requests they are doing, or how are we going to measure? So I start using this strategy in order to identify what are the key outcome, and what I try to show them before identifying those indicators is to start talking about this. And we don't want just to measure outputs and impact. We want to be sure that we understand what the users find valuable in order to identify a minimum set of indicators from the outcomes space. I don't know if that helps.
Yes, it helps. Thank you.
Yeah, maybe I can just add that we used the same kind of board that Alex just showed, but only the first line, which is basically a vision board, where you only have like the 4 pillars to the vision of the product. So because sometimes 8 boxes is too much for the clients. So we keep it very simple, and target groups, needs, products, business goals, then the vision. So once you have the business goals, my understanding is that you have the O's of the OKRs, and you can start break it down.
Okay.
Right. Thank you. Yeah, something that I've been trying so far, but I cannot. I know I don't have feedback so far because I just applied this. Is that we started to set the OKRs for substituting the product goals. The objectives is like the mission of the product, and the key results are the metrics. That is proving, of course, that the product is making a real impact. But something that I haven't done yet is to connect this to the business goals. And I believe with your help, we can now link these both scenarios, the business goals and the product goals. Thank you.
Okay.
Is there any more question?
Someone else?
But let me say that I'm talking from the point of view of the Scrum teams, and some of them, they are used to be delivery machines, and I'm fighting to get to have teams that are empowered enough to be aware of the business strategy and to have product goals which are relevant to the business. And this is not always easy. So this is one of my biggest drivers to get into this OKR space, to have a tool which is going to help. I really think it's going to help to get closer to the business and to be to empower teams to go outside the delivery graph.
Yeah, and I will add to that, because I mean, here around the table, you have certainly a lot of people who are used to help organizations around their outcomes, especially some at higher level and some towards the organization. But sometimes they're not effective when it comes to execution, to basically deliver, get things done. And so I think this is where Scrum can be a good complementary service and competence to build within an organization. So I don't know, among you who are also helping teams with methods such as Scrum, are there any of you that is also doing that, like helping organization implement Scrum? Frederic, you've been doing it, right, for some time? Yeah.
And Kanban too. So it's
yeah, and Luis as well.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yes.
Luis as well. Yeah. And for the others, have you seen sometimes the challenge of the teams basically having outcomes, but then in the end not getting things done? Is this something that you've experienced as well?
Yes, in my case, a lot. This is the main issue, or the thing that I'm tackling right now to switch this view. Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. Carlos, yeah, go ahead.
I had a feedback of a company and a manager that told me that he didn't want to push for outcome because he realized that his team was a little bit lost, and then he changed to output just to push the team to get things done. But he still kept in mind the outcome.
Yeah. Well, this makes me think of basically it was easier to tell them where to go and ask them what to do than to explain them the why and try to educate them or help them grow into thinking more strategically. So yeah, in the short term it was faster, but probably that in the longer term it will create a dependency. How did you overcome that one?
Well, many people left the company, and because they didn't find the sense of purpose. That's the first point. And second point, the thing is that I understand why he did that, because the step was too huge that the team was lost. And so instead of making pieces and milestones, he decided to go into an output approach rather than an outcome approach, in order to say, okay, guys, that's what needs to be done, and then I will explain you why. Right? So that was his philosophy. I didn't agree with him, but yeah, it was his company.
Yeah. Okay. Fair point. I see we have 1 minute to go. I think I'd like to wrap up, except Luis, if you feel, I mean, go ahead if you want to comment on that quickly.
Just quick, because I remember this year I recommend them to detach the bonuses and promotion into the number of projects that the teams were delivering. So this year, the HR detached these type of bonuses and in the performance review. So this helped also a lot the company. Because of course, if you change the outputs to outcomes, and then people were use it to get promoted or bonuses into these number of projects that they were delivering, this is something that to consider.
For sure. Thanks, Luis. Let's wrap up. I see it's 6 p.m. I want to be mindful of everyone's time. Stephanie, do you want to make a quick words to wrap up? And Alex, thank you so much. That was super interesting. I never had deep dive too much into Scrum, although I had worked with it for a long time. So that was super cool to see it step by step. So thanks.
Thank you a lot, and I will be happy to continue discussing this with you, all the members of the collective, even starting a kind of a study group or something. So yeah, feel free to reach me.
Thank you very much, Alex. Yes, just to finish, it's a quick reminder about that we have the quarterly meeting happening next Monday at 5 p.m. So please just answer the calendar invitation that we have sent to you. And yes, we're going to have the usual quarterly meeting. So looking forward to see you all there.
Two things to add on that, Stephanie. We will launch 2 new products next week. So that will be an exciting quarterly, not any quarterly. There are 2 new things that are pretty juicy. We are looking forward to present you. And also you can see a lot of new people here who comes from last cohort. So just so you know, team, whenever you get onboarded, you will be on the communication platforms and so on, so you can interact with everyone. But in the meantime, we already invite you to the event so that you can already connect. So feel welcome also to join next Monday. Thanks, Stephanie, for setting this up. Thank you, everyone. And thanks again, Alex.
Thank you.
Have a good one. Take care.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Pero no más de 15 minutos. Y tienes que buscar cosas que no tienen nada que ver con el ordenador de jugar, ¿de acuerdo? Hay muchas cosas que puedes hacer.